entirely necessary in professional boxing. It just reeks a little bit of the Cassius Clay type of thing, which I'm never entirely in favour of. But anyway, he's been made to take off the sombrero before he gets into the ring. This is Raul Vega waiting now while Alan Rudkin, the British champion, makes his way to the ring. You can hear the reception Rudkin is getting. Alan Rudkin, the Liverpool boy, the baby-faced Liverpool kid, the with-it kid, we call him, and he's very much with it, the Beatle hairstyle. He does a full-time job, works in a greetings card printing firm. He's got a wife and a young son, and he was brought up in the same street as Jerry of Jerry and the Pacemakers, and he rather represents the modern professional style of boxing. Here's our MC, Frank Exley.
Contest number 5, an international bantamweight contest of 10 rounds, 3 minutes duration each round, between introducing in this corner the British and British Empire bantamweight champion from Liverpool, Alan Rodkin. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing in this corner from Mexico City, Raul Vega. At the weigh-in today, Rodkin weighed 8 stones, 8 pounds and 2 ounces. Vega weighed 8 stones, 5 pounds and 9 ounces. Your referee, Mr. Austin O'Connor of Leicester.
Well, in case you're worrying why Raul Vega is in the ring when it says Norman Parra of California in the Radio Times, I must tell you that Parra went down with flu only last week, and Vega has very, very quickly stepped into the breach and come all the way from Oaxaca, which is near Mexico City, to fill Parra's place. So Raul Vega, who has quite a useful knockout record. In fact, there are 6 one-round wins on his record sheet. So it'll be interesting to see whether he can make that sort of punch tell against this sort of class. And Rudkin represents just about the highest class you can get in the world in the bantamweight division today. So it's Alan Rudkin, the Beatles-style haircut boy from Liverpool, who met the world champion fighting Arada in November and lost on points. He took Arada the distance in a fine fight. Rudkin versus Raul Vega, who has this peppering of KO wins on his record. Vega is 25, Rudkin 24. Rudkin is not noted as a quick finisher to his fights. He's principally a very talented young boxer, and one would expect him possibly to have to go the distance to win. Well, we'll see how he handles a man with a reputed KO punch. This is the 3rd Mexican in a row that Rudkin has fought. What you must look for from Rudkin is good technique, variety of punches, good defense, skillful attack. A lot of boxers are stereotyped, but you couldn't call Rudkin that. waiting to see signs of the big punch from Vega, but so far the right hand has been strictly reserved for defense. Rudkin has done most of the scoring in this first round. Alan Rodkin in the same stable as Johnny Pritchett, the British middleweight champion, in the Bobby Neal stable. Neal leaning through the ropes there, former British featherweight champion. Rudkin is 24. This is his third fight since that world title fight in Japan last November. And I call this a pretty risky one because he's due to defend his British and Empire Bantamweight titles on April the 26th at Wembley against Walter McGowan. That's not going to be an easy fight for him by any means. And to take a fight at this notice, with that one coming up, could be quite a risky business for him. There's Vega, the 25-year-old Mexican, who comes incidentally from Oaxaca near Mexico City, which is the same city that bred Vicente Saldivar, the world featherweight champion who fought Howard Winston in this country last year. 25 years old Vega, coming out for round 2 against Alan Rudkin from Liverpool. At the Nottingham ice rink, this is the arena where almost exactly a year ago tonight Rudkin won his British and Empire titles against Johnny Caldwell. That's a good right hand, there it is, that's the big punch from Vega, and that certainly staggered Rudkin. 50 seconds of the second round gone. Oh yes, the first time it came out, and it's a good punch. That was a very, very fast and heavy right hand. Now Rodkin knows what he's got to defend against. Rodkin completely recovered from that surprise. Certainly knew he got it. Rudkin rated in the top 3 or 4 bantamweights in the world, and Vega not in the top 10. This would be a major upset if Vega were to beat Rudkin. Here it is again. That's the second time in that round he threw it, and the second time he caught Rudkin, came right on the bell. So he kept that right hand tucked away for the first round and used it only twice effectively in the second round. There's no doubt at all that it carries a lot of weight and a lot of danger for Rudkin. And so after 2 rounds completed, we now have a very interesting situation developing where Rudkin, who's got to fight a 10-rounder here, when that right hand could potentially always be a finisher. Let's have a look at Vega. We didn't get much of a look at him last time. Here he is, very thin-faced, looks typically Mexican. His record is 20 fights. He's won 17 and lost 3. But of those 17 wins, 13 have come inside the distance. Not all of them knockouts, but certainly 6 of them ended in the first round. Taken this fight at less than a week's notice.
Round 3.
Well, this is going to be a fascinating contest here between the boxer, Rudkin, and the puncher, Vega. And that's always a pretty surefire recipe for an exciting fight. Almost see Rodkin thinking this one out. Good body punch from Rudkin. Sort of punch that goes almost unnoticed by people sitting a long way back, but it was a good right hand which went right in. You might like to look at that right hand of Rudkin's. Every now and again it sinks into Vega's body. He's got a fight on his hands here against this fellow, there's no doubt about it. So once again, he has a habit of throwing it on the bell. Rudkin has just been nominated Fighter of the Month by an American boxing magazine, and he's ranked in that particular magazine's ratings as number 4 challenger for the world title, which is still held by Fighting Arada of Japan. He comes underneath Joe Medel of Mexico, Jesus Pimentel of Mexico, and Bernard Carabello of Colombia. He's had 27 professional fights. He's won 25 and he's lost 2. One of them to Harada in that world title fight. The other one to Carl Taylor way back in his second professional fight when he was cut over an eye and he had to retire. But he avenged the defeat later on. Vega, this tall Mexican, a very dangerous puncher who's going to give Rudkin all the trouble he could possibly want here, I have a feeling. Fourth round. throws that right hand coming out of the clinches. Nice punch. Good jab from Rudkin. That's what I like about Rodkin. He doesn't miss too many opportunities of putting a punch in and scoring. Notice how few punches Rodkin wastes. Bodywork of Rudkin's is really a great speciality of his. It's almost unnoticed by a lot of people, but it's always going in there, and this is what saps the opponent's strength. Oh, that was a good left hook, right into the pit of the stomach. And Rudkin takes that slashing right hand again. This is the one punch with which Vega is dangerous. There's not much behind the left, but the right seems to me to be dynamite when he lets it go. Rudkin always stepping in with the attacks, which means that the right hand of Vega's becomes almost useless to him. It's when he moves away from Vega that the trouble starts. 4 rounds completed of a really good little battle between these two bantamweights. Osaka, which is where he comes from, is an interesting place. It's the capital of the southern state of Osaka, state the same name as the capital. It's about 300 miles southeast of Mexico City, and like Mexico City, where the next Olympic Games are going to be held, Osaka is at a very high altitude indeed. In fact, it stands about 5,000 feet above sea level, but a moderate sort of climate, average temperature about 68 degrees. It's a pretty well agricultural area, still very much undeveloped industrially. Now, that's where Vega comes from, and it's where Saldivar, the Mexican featherweight champion of the world, also comes from. Let's look now at Rudkin quickly before they come out for the 5th, with Bobby Neal and Freddie Hill, his trainer, in the ring with him. Very successful stable. Scheduled 10-rounder, Alan Rudkin, the British and Empire bantamweight champion, against Raul Vega of Mexico, substituting for Norman Parra, the bantamweight champion of California. Vega now has gone southpaw suddenly. For what reason, I don't know, unless it's a thought perhaps that he might be able to get that right hand working more effectively by turning southpaw. So now he's leading with the knockout hand. Well, this is a sign that the Vega camp are not altogether pleased with the first 4 rounds. A major change in tactics. Rudkin now looking more confident than he has at any time. Out in front, of course, Only brief flashes of danger from Vega, but when they have come, they've looked very dangerous. And now he's gone back orthodox again. And Rodkin is cut. Rudkin has got a cut by his right eye in the 5th round. Now then, he's got a fight coming up on April the 26th, defending his titles against Walter McGowan of Wembley. And he's cut here in the 5th round. And this is the last thing he wanted to happen. Difficult to see at the moment exactly where the cut is and how bad it is. But it looks to me as though it's on the eyebrow. It doesn't look too bad. So that's the end of the 5th round, and now Rodkin comes back to his corner for a little bit of attention on that right eye. I don't think it's too bad a cut. It looked to me to be high up, somewhere near the eyebrow, and it wasn't bleeding at all badly. But if you remember, I told you one of the 2 fights he's ever lost was on a cut eye, but that was way back in his 2nd professional fight, and this is his 28th, and he doesn't normally suffer terribly with eye trouble. But nonetheless, it's a nasty handicap to have with 5 rounds still to go against a man with the obvious punching ability of Raul Vega. The Mexican, Augie de Milty, in the ring with him. Al Phillips, his agent, outside the ring. Al Phillips, former Empire featherweight champion. The old Allgate Tiger, Al Phillips, on the outside of the ring there. Well, there's no bleeding at all now from Rudkin's eye, and I think the cut is high enough not to be too menacing. No signs of further trouble from Rudkin's eye. It's not even bleeding. Oh, what another good body punch. He really does sink him in. Great encouragement to see somebody like Rudkin doing this, because British fighters are not renowned for their body punching. It's an art which has very largely been lost in this country. The danger of body punching, of course, is that if one does slip low, you're liable to be disqualified, and that really is why it's been lost as an art in this country. Americans, with their no-foul rule, can wham away at body punching to heart's content, and do. Well, Rudkin is taking a few of these right-handers from Vega. He doesn't want to walk into too many of them. Although he's in front, at least he's in front by my reckoning. I don't know about Mr. Austin O'Connor, the referee, but certainly by my reckoning, Rudkin's in front. But he hasn't really, you'll notice even at this stage now, got a complete ascendancy over his opponent. Far from it. right hand again, high up on the temple. No sign of trouble at all from that eye. Been completely closed up. Beautiful bit of corner work by Freddie Hill, the trainer. Really has done a first-class job on it. Freddie having another look at it there, but it doesn't really need any more attention. It's been completely staunched. A fine piece of corner work. That's not always something that happens either. Some corners just can't sometimes stop bleeding. And largely depends on the skill of your cut man, as they call him. And that's Freddie Hill. Rodkin, of course, was a famous amateur. He boxed for England 11 times as an amateur. He was runner-up in the 1962 ABA Bantamweight final. And he was one of Britain's 10 winners in that famous whitewash match against the USA when Britain won 10-0. He's born in North Wales, but he's lived in Liverpool most of his life, although he now lives in Enfield in London. Vega. Another asset that Rudkin has, of course, is this ability to pace himself. You might have noticed that although he's boxing beautifully here, one always feels that he's got plenty in reserve if it was really necessary. And now Rudkin seems to me to be cut again, and this time it's a vertical cut, a short one, but a vertical cut over the same eye, but near his nose this time. So this right eye of Rudkin's is really going through it tonight. And this one looks to me altogether more serious than the other one. So this is two cuts now that Rudkin has got. One, I think, on the corner of the eyebrow, and this one vertically down near the nose. And this certainly looks like a rather nasty one. 7th round. Rodkin is beginning to bleed quite heavily. Well, this one does look like a really bad one to me. Rodkin bleeding very heavily indeed now. Now he's got just over half a minute to go. Just under half a minute now for Rodkin to get through this round before he can go for repairs, and he's going to need them this time very badly. Bell. And Freddie Hill practically ran out to the middle of the ring to get him, to say, come on, we haven't got much time, and he's going to have to work on this one. We'll stay with this because this is where all the drama of the fight is now, right here in this corner. And they've got about another 40 seconds to staunch this flow of blood from a cut which is about 3/4 of an inch long, I would guess. Coming down above the right eye near the nose, and the referee Austin O'Connor is coming over to have a look at it, see how they're going with it. Bobby Neal nods and says yes, it's all right, as he was almost bound to do. And the crowd clappers. Austin O'Connor walks away. So Rudkin is coming out for the 8th with a bad cut now, the second cut over the right eye, and a month and 5 days away from his title defences with Walter McGowan. Stop the bleeding, but you can see the scar of it. My word, you can. Stands out vividly on the rather pale face of Rodkin. Imagine what Vega must be feeling now. Here's a man who's not ranked in the top 10. He's got in front of him one of the leading bantamweights in the world with a badly cut eye, and Vega can sense victory. And that would boost his stock considerably. And that cut has begun to bleed again. And we're not quite halfway through the 8th. It's got to go 10 rounds. Rodkin's really got a hit and run now. He shouldn't be trying to take the fight to Vega, because I don't think he could possibly knock him out. So with a cut like that, the thing is to keep out of harm's way, but he keeps going inside and the heads keep bumping, and that starts the bleeding off again. Hit and run, these ought to be the tactics. Half a minute of this round left. Rodkin is putting that eye within harm's way all the time, and the shoulder of Vega now is beginning to rumble over it as they come inside. Freddie Hill, the trainer, waiting to pounce in the ring from the corner. Can't wait to get in, hardly. There's the bell. And once more they go to work, and once more Austin O'Connor is there to have a look. And Bobby Neal saying urgently, it's all right, it's all right. And Austin O'Connor walks away. And so Rodkin is going to come out for the 9th. And you see Bobby Neal look up there at the man holding the number board. He wants to notice how far this boy's got to go, and he's got 2 rounds, 6 minutes more of very, very competitive boxing to come. And it is touch and go now to see whether Rudkin can last out these 6 minutes. Well, this is very, very similar to that fight last week in which Chick Calderwood, the British light heavyweight champion, was well out in front after 9 rounds and then got a cut eye and was stopped in the 10th with only about a minute and something left. And lost, of course. So, out to the 9th. Rodkin now very heavily patched over the right eye. And Vega obviously feeling that with a little bit of real effort here, he might be able to finish this. Look at that eye. It really is bad now in the 9th round. And there's still more than halfway of this round to complete. Austin O'Connor looking very anxiously at it. The British champion in really dire straits here. A minute to go at this round. I think Alan Rudkin or his corner are going to come in for some criticism for going in all the time to Vega, when really what he ought to be doing is staying away, working behind his left hand, and keep that right side of his face away from trouble. But he seems almost determined to get into clinches with Vega. And the heads clash again. Vega's face itself now beginning to look quite marked. It's been a hard battle between these two. There's the bell to end the 9th. Now 3 more minutes to go. Is he going to make it? Terrible sense of urgency about this corner now. They all bend over him. Freddie Hill, his brother Peter Hill from the right-hand side there, and Bobby Neal, the manager, leaning in through the left-hand side of the ropes. Rather symbolic figure 10 being held, and Austin O'Connor once more moving in to see. And once more moves away, satisfied that the corner have handled it all right. And so Rodkin now is coming up for the final 3 minutes of this rather desperate contest against Raul Vega of Mexico City. And here he is. I'm sorry we haven't given you more of a look at him in the last few rounds, but as I said before, the drama has been in the other corner. Now then, can Rodkin make it? Can he get through the last 3 minutes safely? Rodkin is absolutely smeared all over his forehead and right eye with grease. Minutes left. Minute to go. Well, I don't suppose young Rodkin has ever fought a more desperate 3 minutes than this. not even with Fighting Harada of Japan. "30 seconds. He's going to make it. And there's the bell, and he came through it. And now we wait for Austin O'Connor, and it's Rodkin on point. Rodkin wins that fight against Raul Vega of Mexico City. On point after coming through from the 7th round with a very, very badly cut right eye indeed. And although one, of course, must say well done Rudkin, I think one also ought to say well done the Rudkin camp, particularly trainer Freddie Hill, who did the work on the eye, because he really did a good job on it. And the sombrero's being passed around. Rudkin gives a smile. It's the first time he's smiled for 40 minutes. And Vega has presented him with a sombrero. So I'm afraid he's got one rather pleasant souvenir of the fight, which is the sombrero, and a very unpleasant one, which is the cut over his right eye, which is certainly going to hamper his training for his fight with Walter McGowan. Tremendous scenes of enthusiasm here for Rudkin, and I'm not surprised. So it's a good performance to come through there with that terrible handicap. I think he might have tried to keep it at long range a bit better, but it's perhaps a bit silly to say that now as he's come through safely. So a win for Alan Rudkin, rated the number 4 challenger to the world champion Fighting Harada. And I am going to try and get a word, if I can, with Bobby Neal, his manager, to see just how bad that cut is, and to see if Bobby can tell us how it's likely to affect his training for the McGowan fight, if I can. But it looks to me as though Bobby Neal is too anxious to get Rudkin out of the corner and back to the dressing room, and perhaps that's not surprising. Further repairs might well be needed on that eye, and so they'll probably